In the vast emptiness of space, a small human exploration ship drifted silently. The crew of 4 was on a mission to map uncharted regions of the galaxy. Captain Liam Carter sat in the command chair, gazing out at the endless sea of stars. Beside him, Clara Hayes, the ship's engineer, worked tirelessly on her tablet, running diagnostics. Ryan Fields, the biologist, studied samples collected from nearby asteroids, while Alex Monroe, the pilot, kept an eye on the ship's controls. The journey had been long and mostly uneventful, but then something unusual appeared on their sensors. A large object, drifting aimlessly in the void, caught their attention. It was far bigger than their ship, with strange shapes and glowing patterns etched into its surface. At first, they thought it might be a comet or a piece of space debris, but as they moved closer, it became clear that this was no natural phenomenon. It was a ship, an alien ship. "Is it abandoned?" Alex asked, her voice tinged with both curiosity and caution. "No way to tell yet," Liam replied, his eyes narrowing as he studied the readings. "But it's giving off faint energy signals. Whatever it is, it's not completely dead." The crew exchanged glances. They had been trained for encounters like this, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of finding an alien vessel. After a brief discussion, they decided to investigate further. Their own ship, though reliable, was running low on supplies after months in deep space. If this mysterious ship held anything useful, technology, fuel, or even information, it could mean the difference between survival and disaster. Carefully, Alex maneuvered their ship closer. The alien craft loomed larger as they approached, its surface covered in intricate designs that seemed almost artistic. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its hull, pulsing with a rhythm that felt almost alive. When they finally docked, the airlock hissed open, revealing a dark and silent interior. Clara grabbed a toolkit and a flashlight, leading the way inside. The others followed closely, their footsteps echoing in the eerie stillness. The air smelled metallic, and the walls were smooth but cold to the touch. As they explored deeper, they found rooms filled with alien machinery, much of it broken or inactive. Dust and debris littered the floors, suggesting the ship had been abandoned for centuries. Ryan stopped suddenly, pointing to a panel on the wall. "Look at this," he said. The panel displayed rows of glowing symbols, flickering weakly. "It's some kind of control system. Maybe we can figure out how to power it up." Clara knelt down, examining the panel closely. "This tech is way beyond anything we've seen before," she murmured. "If we can get it working, it might give us clues about who built this thing and why they left it here." As they continued exploring, they stumbled upon what looked like a central chamber. In the middle of the room stood a large, circular structure surrounded by cables and conduits. It hummed softly, emitting a faint blue light. Clara ran her scanner over it, her brow furrowing in concentration. "This is the core," she announced. "It's some kind of reactor, but it's damaged. If we can fix it, we might be able to restore power to the entire ship." Liam nodded. "Let's focus on that then. We need answers, and maybe a way out of here." The crew got to work, each member playing their part. Clara tinkered with the reactor, trying to stabilize its energy output. Ryan documented everything he saw, snapping photos and taking notes. Alex monitored their surroundings, keeping watch for any signs of danger. And Liam stayed alert, ready to make decisions if things went wrong. Hours passed, and slowly progress began to show. The reactor's hum grew louder, and lights flickered on throughout the ship. For the first time since discovering the vessel, the crew felt a spark of hope. But as they worked, they couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of their vision, and strange sounds echoed through the corridors. Whatever this ship was, it held secrets and dangers that they were only beginning to uncover. As the lights flickered on and the alien ship began to come alive, the crew felt a mix of excitement and unease. Clara worked tirelessly at the reactor, her hands moving quickly over the unfamiliar controls. The glowing symbols on the panels shifted and changed as she adjusted settings, guided by instinct and years of engineering experience. Ryan stood nearby, jotting down notes about the strange designs etched into the walls. Alex kept one hand near her sidearm, scanning the dimly lit corridors for any signs of movement. The ship's hum grew steadier, filling the air with a low rhythmic pulse. It was almost soothing, like the heartbeat of some great beast. But the crew knew better than to let their guard down. This vessel had been abandoned for who knows how long, and they were trespassing in territory that wasn't theirs. Then something unexpected happened. A soft glow appeared in the center of the chamber, growing brighter until it formed a shimmering figure. At first, it looked like a cloud of light, but soon it took shape, a humanoid form, translucent and glowing faintly blue. The crew froze, staring in awe. "Who, or what are you?" Liam asked cautiously, his voice steady despite the shock rippling through him. "I am Vera," the figure replied, its voice calm and melodic, yet devoid of emotion. "An artificial intelligence created by the Zorathians to oversee this vessel." "The Zorathians," Ryan repeated, his pen hovering above his notebook. "Who are they?" Vera hesitated, as if processing the question. The Zorathians were a proud and advanced species. They built this ship as part of a war effort against the Krylos Dominion. But they failed. Their empire fell, and this ship was lost. The words hung heavy in the air. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had stumbled upon the remnants of a conflict far beyond anything humanity had ever faced. "Why are you still here?" Clara asked, breaking the silence. "If your creators are gone." "I exist to preserve knowledge," Vera explained. "To protect the legacy of my creators. I cannot leave this ship. My purpose is tied to it." Liam stepped forward, his mind racing. "Can you help us? Our ship is damaged, and we need supplies to survive. If we can repair this vessel, maybe we can use it to get home." Vera tilted its head slightly, as if considering the request. "I can offer limited assistance. However, reactivating this ship carries risks. Its presence may attract others, scavengers, enemies, or worse." "We don't have much choice," Liam said firmly. He turned to his crew. "Clara, keep working on the reactor. We need full power. Ryan, see if you can find anything useful in these rooms. Maps, data, anything that might tell us more about this ship. Alex, stay alert. We don't know what else is out there." The team sprang into action. Clara returned to the reactor, fine-tuning its systems. She discovered that the ship used a type of energy called quantum fusion, far more efficient than anything humans had developed. With some adjustments, she managed to stabilize the core enough to bring life support online. Air began circulating again, fresh and cool compared to the stale atmosphere they'd endured since boarding. Ryan explored nearby chambers, finding storage areas filled with alien tools and devices. Some looked broken, while others seemed functional but incomprehensible. He carefully packed a few items into his bag, hoping they could be studied later. Meanwhile, Alex patrolled the corridors, her senses sharp. Every creak and groan of the ancient ship made her grip her weapon tighter. Shadows danced along the walls, playing tricks on her eyes. She couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone, even though Vera had said the ship was abandoned. Back in the central chamber, Liam spoke with Vera. "Tell me about the weapons," he said bluntly. "Does this ship have defenses?" "Yes," Vera replied. "Plasma cannons, shielding systems, and other technologies designed for warfare. But they are offline and require significant repairs." Liam nodded. "We'll figure it out. For now, we focus on survival." As the hours passed, the crew made slow but steady progress. Lights brightened, doors opened, and sections of the ship became accessible again. It was clear this vessel had once been a marvel of engineering, capable of incredible feats. But it was also a relic of failure, a ghost of a civilization long gone. Despite the challenges ahead, Liam felt a flicker of hope. If they could master this ship, they might not just survive, they could thrive. And perhaps, just perhaps, humanity would take its first step toward becoming something greater. The crew of the Odyssey, as they had begun calling the alien ship, continued their work, driven by a mix of determination and desperation. Clara spent most of her time in the reactor room, fine-tuning the quantum fusion core. The hum of energy grew stronger with each passing hour, and sections of the ship that had been dark for centuries slowly came back to life. Lights flickered on, illuminating corridors lined with strange symbols and intricate designs. Doors slid open, revealing rooms filled with alien technology. Ryan wandered through these newly accessible areas, his curiosity outweighing his caution. In one chamber, he found rows of pods, each containing what appeared to be organic material. At first glance, they looked like plants or coral, but as he examined them more closely, he realized they were something else entirely. Thin tendrils pulsed faintly, glowing with a soft green light. It was alive, or at least, it had been once. "What are these?" Ryan muttered to himself, snapping photos and taking samples. He called Clara over to take a look. She frowned, running her scanner over the pods. "They're not just machines. They're part of the ship. These things are biological components." "Biological?" Ryan echoed, confused. "You mean the ship is alive?" "Not exactly," Clara replied. "But it's not purely mechanical either. The Zorathians must have integrated living organisms into the structure of the ship. That's why it feels so different." Liam joined them, listening intently. "So, this isn't just a machine. It's a hybrid, a blend of biology and technology." "Exactly," Clara said. "And if we can figure out how to interface with it, we might be able to control the ship more effectively." This revelation sparked an idea in Clara's mind. She began sketching plans for a neural interface, a way to connect human minds directly to the ship's systems. It was risky, but it could give them unparalleled control. She shared her thoughts with Liam, who agreed it was worth trying. Time was running out. Their own supplies were dwindling, and every moment they spent repairing the ship brought the risk of discovery by others. While Clara worked on the interface, Alex kept watch from the bridge. She had grown increasingly uneasy, her instincts telling her they weren't alone. The ship creaked and groaned, as if adjusting to its reactivation, but sometimes she heard other sounds, soft clicks, distant thuds, and faint whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. She tried to brush it off as stress, but the feeling lingered. One day, as Alex monitored the external sensors, she noticed something alarming. A small fleet of ships was approaching fast. Their design was unfamiliar, but their trajectory suggested they were heading straight for the Odyssey. Panic surged through her, and she immediately alerted the others. "We've got company." Alex shouted into the intercom. "Multiple ships incoming." Liam rushed to the bridge, his face grim. "Are they Krylos?" "I don't think so," Alex replied. "Their ships look different. Could be scavengers." Clara and Ryan joined them moments later, their expressions tense. They didn't have time to finish repairs or prepare for a fight. The approaching ships were already within firing range. "Can we use the weapons?" Liam asked Vera, who had materialized beside him. "The plasma cannons are offline," Vera replied. "Activating them would require diverting power from critical systems." "We don't have a choice," Liam snapped. "Do it." Clara quickly rerouted energy from the shields to the weapon systems. With trembling hands, Alex targeted the lid ship and fired. To everyone's astonishment, a beam of searing blue plasma erupted from the ship's cannons, obliterating the enemy vessel in an instant. The remaining ships scattered, clearly unprepared for such firepower. For now, they were safe, but the victory came at a cost. The shields were down, leaving the Odyssey vulnerable. Exhausted but relieved, the crew regrouped on the bridge. "We did it," Alex said, letting out a shaky breath. "For now," Liam added, his voice heavy with warning. "But next time, We might not be so lucky. The encounter left the crew shaken but determined. They had glimpsed the potential of the Odyssey, but they also knew the dangers lurking in the vastness of space. If they wanted to survive, they would need to master the ship, and fast. After this sudden attack, the crew of the Odyssey knew they couldn't afford to sit idle. The brief skirmish had shown them both the power and the vulnerability of their new ship. While they had managed to defend themselves, the cost of disabling the shields left them uneasy. They needed to upgrade the Odyssey, and quickly. Clara took charge of the upgrades, her mind racing with ideas. She spent hours poring over schematics and consulting Vera, who provided limited but valuable insights into the ship's systems. One thing became clear. The Zorathians had designed the Odyssey to adapt. Its hybrid nature, part machine, part organism, meant it could evolve if given the right resources. Clara realized that by integrating human technology with the alien systems, they might unlock even greater capabilities. We need to focus on 3 things, Clara explained to the group during a quick meeting in the central chamber. Speed, defense, and weapons. If we can improve those, we'll stand a better chance out here. Ryan nodded, already thinking about how his expertise in biology could help. What if we use some of the organic material from those pods I found? Maybe we can repair or enhance parts of the ship. That's a good idea, Clara said. But we'll need to be careful. We don't fully understand how these biological components work yet. Meanwhile, Alex worked on improving the navigation system. The alien ship was capable of faster-than-light travel, but its controls were complex and unfamiliar. By combining human algorithms with the ship's existing programming, she hoped to make it more responsive and intuitive. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the console sparked or displayed error messages in alien script. But Alex refused to give up. Liam oversaw everything, making sure the team stayed focused and coordinated. He also kept an eye on the external sensors, wary of another attack. The scavenger ships hadn't returned, but he doubted they'd seen the last of them. Space was vast, but danger seemed to follow wherever they went. As days turned into weeks, progress began to show. Ryan successfully grafted some of the organic material onto damaged sections of the hull, strengthening it and giving it a faint green glow. Clara installed a new energy distribution system, allowing the crew to balance power between weapons, shields, and engines without compromising any one area. And Alex completed her modifications to the navigation system, enabling smoother and faster jumps through space. But the biggest breakthrough came when Clara tested her neural interface prototype. Using a helmet-like device connected to the ship's mainframe, she attempted to link her mind directly to the Odyssey. At first, the experience was overwhelming. Streams of data flooded her consciousness. Images, sounds, sensations, all jumbled together. But as she focused, she began to make sense of it. She could feel the ship's systems responding to her thoughts, adjusting course, rerouting power, and even activating small maintenance drones. "It works," Clara exclaimed, pulling off the helmet. Her face was flushed with excitement. "If we all use this, we can control different parts of the ship simultaneously. It's like becoming part of it." The others stared at her in amazement. Liam grinned despite himself. "This changes everything. With this kind of control, we're not just passengers anymore. We're pilots." Encouraged by the success, the crew began training with the neural interfaces. Each member adapted differently. Alex found it easiest to handle navigation, guiding the Odyssey through simulated flight paths with precision. Ryan struggled at first, but eventually learned to manage the biological systems, monitoring the health of the organic components. Even Liam got involved, using the interface to oversee overall operations. Despite their progress, tensions lingered. The constant pressure of survival weighed heavily on everyone. Supplies were still low, and the threat of enemies loomed large. Yet there was also a growing sense of pride. They were no longer just survivors. They were builders, innovators, and explorers. Together, they were transforming a failing relic into something extraordinary. One evening, as the crew gathered in the central chamber for a rare moment of rest, Liam looked around at his team. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. "This ship isn't just ours now. It's a part of us. And if we keep going like this, we might actually have a shot at making it home." No one spoke, but they all felt the weight of his words. They weren't just repairing a ship. They were forging a future. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The crew of the Odyssey had grown more confident with each passing day. The upgrades were paying off, and the ship was beginning to feel like an extension of themselves. Clara's neural interface allowed them to operate it with precision, while Ryan's work on the biological components kept the hybrid systems stable. Alex's navigation improvements meant they could travel faster and farther than ever before. For the first time since discovering the alien vessel, they felt a glimmer of hope. But space is unpredictable, and danger has a way of finding you when you least expect it. It happened during one of their routine test flights. Alex guided the Odyssey through a dense asteroid field, pushing the engines to their limits. The ship responded beautifully, weaving between rocks with ease. Everyone cheered as they emerged on the other side, unscathed. But their celebration was short-lived. A blip appeared on the sensors. A massive fleet, heading straight for them. "Krylos," Vera announced, her voice calm but ominous. "They have found us." Liam's heart sank. He knew about the Krylos Dominion from Vera's earlier explanations. They were ruthless conquerors, responsible for wiping out the Zorathians and countless other species. If they had tracked down the Odyssey, it meant only one thing. They saw it as a threat or a prize. "We can't outrun them," Alex said, her hands gripping the controls tightly. "Their ships are too fast." "Then we fight," Liam replied, his voice firm despite the fear gnawing at him. "Clara, bring the weapons online. Ryan, monitor the organic systems. Make sure nothing overheats. Alex, keep us steady." Clara nodded and activated the plasma cannons. Thanks to her upgrades, the weapons now charged faster and fired with greater accuracy. Still, the odds were against them. The Krylos fleet outnumbered them 20-1. Even with the Odyssey's advanced technology, survival seemed unlikely. As the enemy ships closed in, Alex maneuvered the Odyssey into position, dodging blasts of energy that lit up the darkness around them. Clara targeted the nearest Krylos vessel and fired. The plasma beam sliced through its hull, reducing it to a cloud of debris. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but there was no time to celebrate. More ships swarmed toward them, relentless and unforgiving. Ryan focused on maintaining the ship's stability. The organic components glowed brighter under stress, pulsing with life as if responding to the chaos around them. "I think the ship is adapting," he shouted over the noise. "It's learning how to handle combat." "Good," Liam barked, "because we're not done yet." Alex executed a daring loop, spinning the Odyssey around to face another wave of attackers. Clara unleashed another volley of plasma fire, destroying 2 more ships. The crew worked together seamlessly, their training paying off in the heat of battle. But the Krylos weren't giving up. Their larger vessels began launching smaller fighters, surrounding the Odyssey like wolves circling prey. "We're taking too much damage," Alex warned, her voice strained. Shields flickered as explosions rocked the ship. Alarms blared, and sparks flew from overloaded consoles. "Divert all power to the shields," Liam ordered. Clara hesitated. The weapons would be offline until they stabilized, but she obeyed. The shields flared back to life just in time to block a devastating barrage of enemy fire. Then something incredible happened. As the Krylos pressed their attack, the Odyssey seemed to awaken. Its glowing tendrils pulsed violently, and the entire ship shuddered. Without warning, it released a burst of energy that rippled outward, disabling every nearby fighter in an instant. "What was that?" Ryan asked, staring wide-eyed at the sensors. "I don't know," Clara admitted, equally stunned. "But it saved us." The Krylos fleet faltered, clearly unsure how to respond. Seizing the opportunity, Alex plotted a course away from the battlefield and engaged the engines. Within moments, the Odyssey vanished into hyperspace, leaving the enemy behind. When they finally dropped out of warp, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had survived, but barely. The encounter had shown them just how powerful the Odyssey could be, but it had also reminded them of the dangers lurking in the galaxy. "We got lucky this time," Liam said quietly. "But luck won't save us next time." No one disagreed. Whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. They couldn't afford to let their guard down again. The crew of the Odyssey had narrowly escaped the Krylos fleet, but the victory left them shaken. They knew they couldn't rely on luck forever. If they wanted to survive in a galaxy filled with threats like the Krylos Dominion, they needed to be stronger, faster, and smarter. That meant pushing the Odyssey to its limits and beyond. Back in the safety of deep space, the crew gathered in the central chamber to discuss their next steps. Liam stood at the head of the group, his expression serious. "We survived that fight," he began, "but it was too close. We need to upgrade this ship even further. If we're going to face the Krylos again, or anyone else, we have to make sure we're ready." Clara nodded, already thinking ahead. "There's still so much potential here. The Zorethians designed this ship to adapt, and we've only scratched the surface. If we can integrate more human tech with the alien systems, we might unlock abilities we haven't even imagined yet." Ryan chimed in, holding up a sample of the glowing organic material he'd been studying. "I think I can use this stuff to reinforce the hull. It's not just strong. It seems to repair itself when damaged. If we coat the outside of the ship with it, we could make the Odyssey nearly indestructible." "That's a good start," Liam said. "What about weapons? Can we improve those?" "I've got an idea," Clara replied. "If we reroute some of the energy from the core, we can create a secondary weapon system, something smaller but faster. Think of it like point defense turrets. They won't take down big ships, but they'll stop fighters and missiles before they get close." Alex raised her hand slightly, hesitant to interrupt. When everyone turned to look at her, she spoke up. "What about stealth? If we could hide from the Krylos instead of fighting them, we have a better chance of staying alive." Liam considered this for a moment. "That's smart. Clara, is there any way to build a cloaking device using the ship's systems?" "It's possible," Clara said after a pause, "but it would require a lot of power. We'd have to sacrifice something else, maybe speed or weapon capacity, to make it work." "Let's do it," Liam decided. "Stealth might be our best weapon against a bigger force." With their plan set, the crew got to work. Ryan focused on applying the organic material to the hull, carefully layering it over weak points and testing its resilience. To his amazement, the substance bonded seamlessly with the ship's structure, forming a protective barrier that glowed faintly under stress. Clara tackled the cloaking device, working tirelessly to modify the ship's energy field. She experimented with different configurations, running simulations until she found one that worked. When activated, the cloaking system bent light around the ship, rendering it nearly invisible to sensors and the naked eye. Meanwhile, Alex tested the new point defense turrets, programming them to track and destroy incoming threats automatically. She spent hours fine-tuning the targeting algorithms, ensuring they wouldn't accidentally fire on debris or harmless objects. As the days passed, the Odyssey transformed once again. Its sleek exterior now shimmered with a greenish hue, thanks to Ryan's upgrades. The bridge buzzed with activity as Clara and Alex integrated their new systems into the neural interface, allowing the crew to control everything with ease. Despite their progress, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The constant pressure of survival weighed heavily on everyone. Supplies were dwindling, and the strain of working long hours in such close quarters was beginning to show. Arguments flared occasionally, though they always resolved quickly. The crew knew they had to stay united if they wanted to survive. One evening, as they prepared for another test flight, Liam addressed the group. "We've done incredible work," he said, looking at each member in turn. "This ship isn't just a relic anymore. It's a weapon, a shield, and a home. But remember, we're still outnumbered out there. Stay sharp and trust each other." No one spoke, but they all felt the weight of his words. Whatever lay ahead, they were ready to face it together. The Odyssey wasn't just a ship, it was their lifeline, and they were determined to make it unbeatable. The upgrades to the Odyssey were nearly complete, and the crew felt a renewed sense of confidence. The ship was faster, stronger, and more capable than ever before. But as they prepared for another test run, an unsettling discovery threatened to tear them apart. It started with Ryan. While reviewing data from the organic components he'd integrated into the hull, he noticed something unusual, a signal being transmitted from the ship. At first, he thought it was a glitch or residual energy from the Zorathian systems. But when he traced the source, his blood ran cold. The signal wasn't random. It was directed at a specific location in space. "Guys, we got a problem," Ryan said, rushing into the central chamber where the others were gathered. His face was pale, and his hands trembled as he held up his tablet. "The ship's been sending out a signal. I think someone's tracking us." "What do you mean, someone?" Liam asked, stepping forward. His voice was sharp, demanding answers. "I don't know who," Ryan admitted, "but whoever it is, they're not far away. And I think I might know how they found us." Clara frowned, her eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" Ryan hesitated, guilt written all over his face. "I've been communicating with a group, a faction interested in this ship. I didn't tell anyone because I thought I could handle it myself. I just wanted to make sure humanity had a backup plan if things went south." The room fell silent. Clara's jaw dropped, and Alex's hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm. Liam stared at Ryan, his expression unreadable but heavy with disappointment. "You did what?" Liam finally said, his voice low and dangerous. "You jeopardized all of us." "For what?" "Some rogue faction." "It wasn't like that," Ryan protested, raising his hands defensively. "They promised resources, protection, things we desperately need. I wasn't trying to betray you. I thought I was doing the right thing." Clara shook her head, her frustration boiling over. "This isn't about intentions, Ryan. If they're tracking us, they'll bring trouble. Maybe even worse than the Krylos." Alex stepped closer, her voice icy. "And what happens when they show up? Do they take the ship? Leave us stranded, or worse?" Liam raised a hand, silencing the rising tension. "Enough. Arguing won't fix this. We need to focus on what matters, staying alive." He turned to Ryan, his tone firm but measured. "Shut down the signal. Now. And don't keep anything from us again. If we're going to survive, we need trust, not secrets." Ryan nodded, shame washing over him. He quickly got to work, isolating the transmission and cutting it off. But the damage was done. The crew's unity had been shaken, and the weight of Ryan's actions hung over them like a storm cloud. Later that night, Liam sat alone in the central chamber, staring at the glowing core of the ship. Clara joined him, sitting quietly beside him for a moment before speaking. "He messed up," she said softly, "but he thought he was helping." "I know," Liam replied, rubbing his temples. "That doesn't make it okay. Trust is everything out here. Without it, we're finished." Clara sighed. "Do you think the faction will find us?" "I don't know," Liam admitted, "but we can't afford to wait around and find out. We need to move, keep upgrading, keep preparing. If they come, we'll be ready." The next morning, the crew resumed their work, though the atmosphere was tense. Ryan kept his distance, avoiding eye contact, but throwing himself into his tasks with renewed determination. Clara and Alex focused on testing the cloaking device, ensuring it would hide them from any prying eyes. Liam oversaw everything, his leadership tested but unwavering. As they worked, Vera appeared beside Liam, her translucent form glowing faintly. "Your species is remarkable," she said. "Even amidst conflict, you strive to protect one another." Liam gave a small, humorless laugh. "Not all of us, but we try." Vera tilted her head. "Perhaps that is why you have survived this long." Her words lingered as the crew pushed forward, repairing and improving the Odyssey. Despite the betrayal and mistrust, they knew one thing for certain. They couldn't give up now. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, or not at all. The crew of the Odyssey had been on edge ever since Ryan's betrayal came to light. Trust was fragile now, but they didn't have the luxury of dwelling on it. The upgrades were complete, and the ship was ready for its ultimate test, a journey into dangerous territory to see if their new systems could hold up under pressure. Liam called a meeting in the central chamber to lay out the plan. "We're heading toward a sector known for heavy traffic," he explained. "It's risky, but it's the best way to test the cloaking device and the point defense turrets. If we can navigate through without being detected, we'll know we're ready for anything." Clara nodded, though her expression was tense. "The cloaking system is stable, but it'll drain power quickly. We'll need to time our jumps carefully." "Got it," Alex said, already running simulations on the navigation console. "I'll plot a course that keeps us away from major fleets while still testing the limits of the ship." Ryan stayed quiet, focused on his tablet as he monitored the organic components of the hull. He wanted to prove himself after his earlier mistake, even if no one fully trusted him yet. As they prepared to leave, Vera appeared beside Liam. "Be cautious," she warned. "This region is patrolled by the Krylos Dominion. Their sensors are advanced." "We'll be fine," Liam replied, though his voice betrayed a hint of doubt. "If the cloaking device works, they won't even know we're there." With everything set, Alex guided the Odyssey into hyperspace. When they emerged in the target sector, the crew held their breath. Dozens of ships, some belonging to traders, others to mercenaries, and a few marked with the ominous insignia of the Krylos, drifted nearby. It was a chaotic web of activity, and one wrong move could expose them. "Activating cloaking device," Clara announced, her fingers flying over the controls. The ship shimmered briefly before vanishing from sight. On the sensors, their signature disappeared entirely. "So far, so good," Alex muttered, keeping her eyes glued to the navigation screen. She maneuvered the Odyssey carefully, avoiding larger vessels and staying clear of patrol routes. For several tense minutes, they drifted silently through the crowded sector. The crew worked in near silence, each member focused on their task. Clara monitored the cloaking system, making minor adjustments to keep it stable. Ryan kept an eye on the organic hull, ensuring it didn't overheat under the strain. Alex navigated with precision, her hand steady despite the pressure. Then, disaster struck. A small Krylos scout ship changed course unexpectedly, heading straight for their position. It wasn't clear if they had been detected or if it was just bad luck, but the situation quickly turned dire. "They're scanning us," Ryan shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Shields are down because of the cloak," Clara added, frantically trying to reroute power. "If they fire, we're done." "Hold steady," Liam ordered, his voice calm but firm. "Alex, get us out of here. Clara, prepare to drop the cloak and fire back if we have to." Alex gritted her teeth, her hands gripping the controls tightly. She activated the engines, pushing the Odyssey into a sharp turn. The scout ship followed, firing blindly in their direction. Sparks flew across the bridge as one shot grazed the hull, but the organic material absorbed most of the impact. "We can't keep this up," Alex yelled, sweat dripping down her face. "They're too close." "Drop the cloak," Liam barked. "Clara, now." Clara slammed her hand down on the console, and the cloaking device disengaged. The Odyssey reappeared in a flash of light, startling the scout ship. Before the enemy could react, Clara unleashed the plasma cannons, obliterating the smaller vessel in a single blast. The bridge fell silent as the debris floated away. No other ships seemed to notice the brief skirmish, and the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. "We did it," Alex whispered, slumping back in her chair. "For now," Liam said, his tone grim. "But we got lucky again. Next time, we might not." No one argued. They had passed the test, but the cost of failure loomed large. Survival wasn't guaranteed. It never was, but they were determined to keep fighting. Together, they would push forward, one step closer to mastering the galaxy's ultimate war machine. The crew of the Odyssey had survived another close call, but the encounter with the Krylos scout ship left them shaken. They knew they couldn't keep relying on luck. Every jump into hostile territory brought new risks, and sooner or later, their luck would run out. It was time to take the next step, to unlock the full potential of the ship. Clara spent hours in the reactor room, studying the quantum fusion core. She had always suspected there was more to it than met the eye, and now she was determined to uncover its secrets. With Vera's guidance, she began experimenting with power outputs, pushing the core beyond its current limits. The hum of energy grew louder, filling the ship with a deep vibration that resonated through every corridor. "There's something buried in here," Clara muttered to herself as she worked. Something the Zorathians didn't finish, or maybe didn't want anyone else to find. Her efforts paid off when she stumbled upon a hidden subsystem within the core. It was unlike anything she'd seen before, a self-replicating factory capable of producing entire fleets of ships. The implications were staggering. If they could activate it, they wouldn't just have one powerful vessel. They could create an entire armada. But there was a catch. The factory required an immense amount of energy to function, far more than the ship currently generated. Activating it would mean diverting all available power, leaving the Odyssey vulnerable for a critical period of time. "This changes everything," Liam said when Clara explained her discovery during a meeting in the central chamber. His voice was filled with awe and caution. "If we can use this, we won't just be surviving anymore. We'll be unstoppable." "But at what cost?" Alex asked, her brow furrowed. "If we drain the ship's power, we'll be sitting ducks. What happens if the Krylos show up while we're trying to activate it?" "We'll have to prepare for the worst," Liam replied. "Clara, how long will it take to bring the factory online?" "At least 30 minutes, Clara answered. "Maybe longer, and I'll need everyone's help to manage the energy flow." Ryan spoke up, his tone hesitant. "What about sacrifices? Are we talking about losing parts of the ship, or worse?" Clara hesitated before nodding. "Possibly. The factory isn't designed to be gentle. It consumes resources, raw materials, energy, even organic matter, to build new ships. If we want this to work, we might have to give up some things." The gravity of the decision hung heavy in the air. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, each lost in thought. They had come so far together, risking everything to survive. Now they faced a choice that could either save them or doom them. Finally, Liam broke the silence. "We've been through hell to get here. If we don't take this chance, everything we've done will be for nothing. I say we go for it, but only if everyone agrees." One by one, the crew nodded. Even Ryan, still working to regain their trust, voiced his support. "Let's do it," he said quietly. "For humanity." With the decision made, the crew sprang into action. Clara coordinated the energy rerouting, her hands moving swiftly over the glowing panels. Alex monitored external sensors, keeping watch for any signs of danger. Ryan gathered raw materials from storage compartments, feeding them into the factory's intake systems. Liam oversaw the operation, ensuring everyone stayed focused. As the process began, the ship trembled violently. Lights flickered, and alarms blared as power surged through the factory. The central chamber transformed into a hive of activity, with streams of molten metal and glowing components swirling around them. Slowly but surely, shapes began to emerge: small drones, weapons platforms, and even the beginnings of new ships. "It's working," Clara shouted over the noise, her face lit with excitement. We're actually doing it. But then, disaster struck. A warning flashed across the sensors. Multiple ships approaching fast. The Krylos had found them. They must have tracked us after the last fight, Alex said, panic creeping into her voice. They're closing in. Keep going, Liam ordered. We're not stopping now. Alex, hold them off as long as you can. Clara, focus on the factory. Alex scrambled to activate the plasma cannons, firing blindly at the incoming fleet. Shields flickered dangerously low, but she managed to buy precious seconds. Clara worked feverishly, sweat pouring down her face as she pushed the factory to completion. Finally, with a deafening roar, the first new ship emerged from the factory bay, sleek and deadly. Moments later, another followed, then another. Within minutes, a small fleet surrounded the Odyssey, ready to defend it. The Krylos fleet hesitated, clearly unprepared for such a sudden show of force. Seizing the opportunity, Liam gave the order to attack. The newly created ships unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, scattering the enemy and forcing them to retreat. When the battle ended, the crew stood in stunned silence. They had done the impossible. The Odyssey was no longer alone. It was the heart of a growing armada. Liam looked at his team, pride swelling in his chest. This is just the beginning, he said. We've taken our first step toward changing the galaxy forever. With their new fleet at their command, the crew of the Odyssey faced a decision that would define not only their future, but the fate of countless others in the galaxy. The Krylos Dominion's oppressive rule had spread fear and destruction across star systems, enslaving civilizations and erasing those who resisted. Now, humanity, once a small, isolated species, had the power to challenge them. Liam stood on the bridge, staring out at the fleet of ships they had created. Each vessel gleamed with the same hybrid technology as the Odyssey, a testament to human ingenuity combined with Zorethian engineering. But this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice, for the Zorethians, for the oppressed, and for themselves. We can't run anymore, Liam said, turning to face his crew. His voice was steady, filled with resolve. If we strike back now, we might be able to cripple the Krylos Dominion. We could free entire worlds. Clara nodded, her hands resting on the console behind her. We've got the tools, the weapons, the shields, the numbers. We're ready. Alex leaned forward, her expression grim. But are we ready to pay the price? This won't just be a fight. It'll be a war. Ryan stayed quiet, his earlier betrayal still weighing heavily on him. He had spent weeks proving himself again, working tirelessly to support the team. Now he finally spoke up. Let's finish what the Zorethians started. They built this ship to fight the Krylos. Maybe we're meant to carry their torch. No one argued. They all knew the risks, but they also knew they couldn't turn away. Humanity had been given a gift and a responsibility. Together, they plotted their attack. The target was a massive Krylos stronghold deep within enemy territory. It served as both a fortress and a hub for their operations, controlling supply lines and communications across multiple sectors. Taking it down wouldn't destroy the Dominion overnight, but it would send a message. Resistance was possible. As they approached the stronghold, the tension aboard the Odyssey was palpable. The cloaking devices masked their fleet until the last moment, allowing them to slip past outer defenses undetected. When they reached optimal range, Liam gave the order. Decloak and fire. In an instant, the fleet revealed itself, unleashing a devastating barrage of plasma fire. The Krylos forces scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard by the sheer size and coordination of the assault. One by one, enemy ships exploded in bursts of light, while defensive turrets crumbled under relentless attacks from Clara's upgraded point defense systems. Alex maneuvered the Odyssey through the chaos, dodging debris and returning fire with precision. The neural interface allowed her to control the ship almost instinctively, weaving between blasts and targeting weak points in the stronghold's armor. Meanwhile, Ryan monitored the organic components of the fleet, ensuring none of the ships suffered critical damage. The battle raged for hours, each side refusing to yield. But slowly, the tide turned in favor of the humans. With every passing minute, the Krylos stronghold weakened, its once impenetrable walls crumbling under the relentless assault. Finally, with a deafening explosion, the stronghold collapsed into itself, consumed by flames and smoke. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but Liam remained focused. "We're not done yet," he reminded them. "This is just the beginning." News of the victory spread quickly through the galaxy. Civilizations that had lived under the shadow of the Krylos dominion began to rise up, inspired by the actions of a small group of humans. For the first time in centuries, hope flickered in the darkness. Back aboard the Odyssey, the crew gathered in the central chamber, exhausted but triumphant. Liam looked at each of them, pride shining in his eyes. "We started this journey as survivors," he said. "Now we're something more. We've proven that even the smallest spark can ignite change." Clara smiled faintly, her gaze drifting to the glowing core of the ship. "And we couldn't have done it without her. She's not just a machine or a relic. She's part of us now." Vera appeared beside them, her form shimmering softly. "You have honored the legacy of my creators," she said. "Their dream lives on through you." As the crew prepared to move on to their next mission, they knew challenges lay ahead. The Krylos dominion wouldn't fall easily, and there would be sacrifices along the way. But for the first time, they felt truly alive, not just as individuals, but as pioneers forging a brighter future. Together, they vowed to continue exploring the stars, carrying the spirit of the Zorathians and humanity's newfound courage. In doing so, they became legends, not just to their own kind, but to the galaxy itself.